Hello Internet, I'm Mona, and I've been playing Kerbal Space Program. Today I'm actually attempting a Reddit challenge, the 3-man SSTO. SSTO standing for Single Stage to Orbit. Most typically done by space planes, it's getting into orbit without having to drop off any extra engines or empty fuel tanks. Now, the specific Reddit challenge has two modes, an easy mode and hard mode. The easy mode is to get 3 men into orbit using an SSTO. Once in orbit, you can then stage for whatever kind of landing you need. The hard mode is to get them all the way to the moon, land on the moon, and then return them from the moon, at which point you can stage after your landing. I'm going to be doing the harder mode, where I take them to the moon, land on the moon, and then come back without dropping any stages at all. In fact, we're probably going gliding into a landing. The 3 astronauts we're taking, of course, are Jebediah, Bill, and Bob. Who else? Jebediah, of course, in the captain's chair, flying the plane, because, again, wouldn't have it any other way. I've done some testing with this craft, or a previous version of this craft that did make it to the moon and back. However, it only had 1.3 liters of fuel remaining. Specifically liquid fuel. Oxidizer had a couple hundred, meaning it definitely had ran out of the jet fuel that had been prepared for it, and the air-breathing engines had sucked up rocket fuel. So I did give it an additional tank of jet fuel here. So hopefully that'll solve that problem, and we'll have enough fuel left over. We can actually pick our landing spot. They actually had to get really lucky in the test to actually land back on land. So, we are off into the wild blue yonder, and we will be off into the wild blue yonder for quite a certain time, because this is a very heavy bird. It is the case because we actually have, you can see we got the 2 T400 tanks here and 2 T800s, so it's essentially 3 T800s worth of fuel, which is quite heavy, and the way the aero mechanics work in Kerbal Space Program means it's an awful lot of drag. The awful lot of drag part is actually why, of the 16 air intakes we have stacked here, we are only using 6 of them. 10 of them are closed, and will remain closed until we get to a point where the air intake that the 6 remaining is less than 0.3. But then we'll open up the others. The reason for that is that they have different amounts of drag when open or closed. And open drag right now, the open intakes right now are producing 0.6 of drag. The closed ones are 0.3, so that is half the drag for those parts. And once you get up to higher altitudes, it's an even larger factor. Actually, the number maxes out at 2.0 when you get up to about 15 kilometers up, and you're going several Mach. So we will be riding this relatively slowly, and we'll try to see if I can get my climb rate a bit higher. Sadly, since this is going to be a fairly long mission, SSTO is usually not the quickest things to orbit. I may do some editing and cutting out the parts where I don't really talk very much, because there will not always be something to say. Oh, what is this? There's something going overhead. Oh. Oh, it's the Untitled Spacecraft. I cannot switch that right now because I'm currently flying a plane. Untitled Spacecraft was a test where I tried to see what was the smallest thing I could get into orbit. Like basically the smallest thing. And it was a probe body, T400 tank, and a nuclear engine on top of the solid rocket booster. So 4 parts, and I was able to get into orbit. So that was a nice thing to do. That was a good time. And I did say 4 parts, not 5. There was no separator between the nuclear engine and the solid rocket booster. When the solid rocket booster was done, I just turned on the nuclear engine over it and just let the solid rocket booster explode to overheating. They tend to overheat themselves anyway, so it was fairly near the border, and it saved me a part, you know, for the point of the exercise. I need to get higher now, please. Lord. Right. Success is not guaranteed. There's been other attempts where I just spent too much time in the atmosphere because I wasn't paying enough attention, and I kind of... There's two things you always need to be doing. You always need to be gaining altitude and gaining speed. And I was trying to make witty banter, and I lost concentration, and I started losing altitude, and that cost me a lot of fuel to the point where I was not comfortable continuing with the mission, and I had to restart. So this is actually attempt number 2, this particular version of this craft. Not for any fault of the craft, but for me getting distracted. So we're going to do better this time. Yeah, at this point it is just me climbing. The craft does have an operational ceiling of around 38 kilometers. About 30 to 35 is when we'll be doing most of our hard accelerating and managing of our air intake. So, being at 12,000 is nothing. So I'll probably just edit this part out, and I will see you again once my air intake is down to 0.3. That's on the opening of the new ones. Okay, we're coming up on our 0.3, and now we will open the additional air intakes, and now we're back at 0.8. Hooray. Now that we've have all of our intakes open, the only way we can really manage our air intake is via our throttle. And knowing what throttle you need to be at for what air intake level is just kind of experience and kind of trial and error. The kind of trial and error that makes your plane spin out and kill everyone on board. So after doing that enough times to probably warrant my own memorial, I've pretty much figured out that anything above 0.2, you can be around here. This is kind of your 0.10. This is your 0.0. Yeah, your 0.1. Yeah, your 0.10. This is your 0.05. And as long as it stick to around that, you'll be fine. Alright, 0.4. We do have to level out a little bit so that we gain speed, because gaining speed is just as important as gaining altitude. Because the faster we are going, the more air we will have by the time we get to those higher altitudes. So we'll have more thrust at those altitudes. So we're balancing air intake, altitude, and thrust. And the jet engines provide an excellent amount of thrust. This one is right now is providing 212, which is near its maximum of 215, I recall. So we're generating about 420 kilonewtons of thrust. The nuclear engine's maximum thrust output is 60. So we will be continuing to ride these jet engines until their thrust drops to about 30 each, in which case the nuclear engine will provide us more thrust. You can see the number is dropping. It will continue to drop. That's fine. That's what we're expecting. In fact, we want to see our air intake number be getting smaller, our altitude be getting higher, and our velocity be getting higher. Like, that's the trend we want to see across the board. If those three trends cease for any reason, something has gone wrong. 26 kilometers high, 25, good. We want to, let's see, we want to keep, this is about 50 meters per second climbing. That's about 30. So it's a logarithmic scale, so it's a little bit difficult to read. I believe we have a 30-meter climb rate. I would like to get that a little bit higher until we get to about 30 kilometers up, at which point between like 32 and 38, we want to be about 10 meter per second climb, just so that we can be gaining as much velocity as possible. By the time our engines are no longer outputting the thrust we want, we'll be at roughly 38 kilometers and traveling probably about 21 or 2200 meters per second. There'll probably be a little bit of overlap area where we're actually firing both the jet engines and the nuke at the same time. Just because, you know, at the point where this is outputting 60, or when this one is outputting 30, they combine to 60, we could be running the nuclear engine 2, that'll give us another 15, so our total aggregate thrust will be greater than just what the nuclear engine could do by itself. So when the engines drop down to about 20, then we're going to go pure nuclear. Things are good. Climb rate's fine. I think it's dropping. It is dropping. So you can kind of consider this your tutorial for the methodology of launching an SSTO spaceplane. You can do it. It is roughly the same methodology for a lighter plane that only has to get to orbit, doesn't have to go to the moon and back. One of the more simple space planes I built is actually just one of the 800 fuel tanks going down the center with the nuclear engine and the 2 jet engines with 2 jet tanks, and only 3 intakes per engine, and that launches just fine. It means if you have fewer intakes, it means you're going to be turning on your alternative engine. Actually, I don't know if that's a nuclear engine. I think that one might be an aerospike. Aerospikes are good options for SSTOs because while they don't have the fuel efficiency, the ISP of a nuclear engine, they have a very good thrust-to-weight ratio, and if you can reduce the amount of weight you have to haul up into orbit, or that you have to haul up to altitude before you change, the better off you are. So a good thrust-to-weight ratio is good. So, so if you have fewer air intakes or different thrust algorithms, then you're just kind of changing what altitude you tend to run out of air at and switch over. So you don't have to. It doesn't have to be quite as drawn out and painful if you're doing a lighter SSTO. Little high. We want to reduce our climb to about 10 meters per second so that we can increase our orbital speed. Because if we point too high, we're not really increasing our orbital speed very much. If we point too low, our orbital speed increases just great, but we may not be maintaining an altitude. And again, it's orbital speed, beyond being the final number we need, also keeps our air intake high, which keeps our thrust high, which means we can suck on this air-breathing engines for that much longer. Because again, even at 34 kilometers, I'm getting at 1200 ISP, specific impulse. And that is really hard to beat. Like, that is worth a lot of finagling. because again, the nuclear engine only goes up to 800 in the very, very best scenario. So this is very much worth it for us to spend this much effort to do it. Just like that's how you do it one stage. Climbing, going faster, and we have some air left. This is where I need to pay attention. Our climb is subsiding. Okay, so now our climb is only about 5 meters per second, which is not great. Oh, we're slowing down. I can't put more into it. We're going to activate. We can't slow down. We can't lose altitude. We can't slow down. Those are the two no-no-nos. So now we are getting the 88 from that and about 22 from that. So we will we will ride all three, burning the candle at three ends until we run out of air. Alright, so our climb is at 10. Our orbital speed is increasing. With the additional thrust, I can lean over a bit to increase the speed some more. Maybe. Iffy. So now we'll be burning all three until the thrust number for jet engines drops to about 20. Because in that case, then we'll be getting more thrust from the nuclear engine than all three combined. I did the math. The amount of fuel we have in the liquid fuel tanks, the way the fuel lines are set up, it goes from the outside in along this side. It'll actually burn this liquid fuel last, but it'll burn that with the oxidizer from whatever tanks it can reach. I know that we will have used up the equivalent of this fuel when this number is 15 less than the max. Right now we're 5 less than the max. We do have more fuel to go before we have run out of quote-unquote jet fuel. Of course, we're actually burning oxidizer at this point too, though not very much. We're doing our downstairs things. Climb rate's good. Could probably afford to pitch forward. I still want this number to get bigger. Climbing is good because it gets us out of this stupid atmosphere. But we do need to go faster. Must go faster. In one sense, going faster does get us out of the atmosphere because it kind of projects us forward around the edge of the planet, the curvature of the planet. So if we can do that fast enough, that is de facto altitude. So that's why there is a balance. Sometimes pitching up is not always the best way to get altitude. Sometimes driving forward is. But our thrust is very, very minimal. This could take quite some time. It always kind of does. This is one of the most tedious stages of transformation from air breathing to rocket, and it's also where things go horribly, horribly wrong, and all of your effort will be wasted. Oh, so barely gaining altitude, and oh, so barely gaining velocity. Let's see, so that's 20, so that's almost 50, so that's 13. That's about even from just the nuclear engine. I really, really throttle up, but I know I can't. Because I want to climb faster, and I want more acceleration. But if we close the intakes, we'll have less drag. Yeah, we're at 0.3. I think I want to go for it. So we're going to shut off the jet engines, accelerate to max, and close the air intakes. These are closed. Yes, those are closed. So now we go faster. Okay, our altitude is gaining higher. We are gaining speed. This was a good decision. Actually, the air intake just went up too. No, that's because the air intakes are closed and we lost drag. So now we must go faster, go higher. And overheat. So our numbers are headed all in the right directions. You can look at the map. Okay. And we have traveled about halfway around the globe, just trying to get out of the atmosphere. And we need to get that apoapsis higher. Yeah, the time until apoapsis is actually a good indication of what's going on. Our climb rate is increasing because the T minus is getting longer. It is moving away from us, meaning we're throwing ourselves higher and higher into the sky. And we want that to happen. We want that to get away from us pretty much as quickly as possible so that we can get out of this blasted atmosphere that is dragging us down. And here's another again where it's a balance between thrusting up to get the apoapsis away from us and to thrust forward to throw it around the edge around the curvature of the planet. So as long as we want that number to get bigger, faster. Eventually we're going to be shooting for an altitude of around 75 kilometers. That's good. Just because that is above the it's at a minimal altitude above the atmosphere, and because when we get to the 75 we're going to have to throttle back, and we will still have to fight some drag. So we'll probably lose a little bit of altitude, but as long as we stay between 70 and 75, we'll be good to go. Here's where the visuals are just stirring visuals with the number getting bigger. They're fairly equatorial. It's not perfect. Better than Mr. Untitled Spacecraft, though, but it didn't even have a reaction wheel of any kind. We're not overheating, are we? Yeah, we're fine. We are doing much better than the last attempt. By the last attempt, I did not get to this point until I had only had 700 fuel left, so this is going better. We wasted far less fuel in the atmosphere this time. And I believe we will need every drop of it if we want to get back home and land safely. I keep forgetting you can just click on that number and not have to babysit it like that. Right, so that's... Okay, so we have a little... Our throttle is set to a very small amount, and the number's getting smaller because we're not thrusting enough to overcome the terminal velocity of the atmosphere at this point, but that's okay. As the atmosphere gets thinner, the terminal velocity of the aircraft will increase until the atmosphere is completely gone, and we'll get this... See, we're already going back up again, so we can actually cut throttle a little bit more. I really just want enough throttle to balance to maintain a terminal velocity of our current velocity until we get completely out of the atmosphere, and then we can do our final circularization. So now we have to wait until our altitude is around 70, and then we'll free from that horrible, horrible atmosphere. Hooray. Okay, now we're above 70 kilometers. We can do our circularization burn and then plan our trip to the moon. Alright. Things don't need to be perfectly circular, they just need to be above the atmosphere. Unfortunately, we've already been using our nuclear engine, so we can have our correct estimate burn. This really is kind of irritating when you want to do an estimate burn, but you haven't really used those engines yet, so it doesn't know what to do, so you have to give it like a test burn. You throw yourself off trajectory, and blah 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 blah. Right. A little slow. This is not the precision part of... We are past the most well, I don't know if it's the most... Part 1 of the high precision maneuvering is done. Part 2 will be landing on the moon. Yep, good. So we have ourselves a good enough orbit. And there is our moon over there. And then you can see that's the landing location of the previous attempt. which wouldn't have counted. I suppose I could have. I wanted. It would have been nice if I could have submitted that, considering it was even only just a test. But I did not have all 3 kerbins on board at the time, and yeah, they were part. 2 of the 3 cockpits their hatches were obstructed by wing bits, so I couldn't have gotten them out and back in. And it was not. I didn't take any screenshots along the way, so it wouldn't have counted. It would have been nice. I did not even expect to make it that far, so that was a real nice surprise. So, all right, we will need node. Oop, too far. My usual way of getting a moon encounter is actually to did the thing I did not want to do. My normal method for getting a lunar encounter would be to create an orbit that just about touches the moon's orbit, something like that, where it doesn't quite reach the orbit, but will definitely hit the sphere of influence and just kind of like move it around until I encounter the moon. So that's pretty good. So I wonder if we can make it even better. Okay. So that looks like that'll be our best time to leave. Yeah. And we want to get nice and close to the moon so we don't have to do like a double burn later. 3. Nope. Right. I suppose we could go for a direct intercept and go for a straight for landing. But it's really the same. You have to kill all of the velocity anyway, regardless if you're going straight at it or if you're kind of going into an orbit. So it shouldn't make too much of a difference. We'll just do a traditional flyby orbit and then land. Because we won't at least want to try to land on the daylight side, for landing would be easier that way. And also it's YouTube. Who doesn't want to? Who enjoys watching things land in the dark? I do have a landing light on here. Hopefully I won't really need it. And now we have 6 minutes until our burn, but it's going to be a 5-minute burn. Huzzah! Thank you, Mr. Single Nuclear Engine. Oh, poor Bob. He's the only one not really happy right now. Jeb's loving it. Even Bell's fine. Of course, it was Bill the one who snuck away and planted the flag on the moon, beating Jebediah to his potential victory. That's sneaky Bill. You're not supposed to plant flags on test flights. Well, who can really blame him? If I had the chance to steal a high-powered ship, fly to another planet, and plant a flag before anyone else, I might do it too. Oh, idiot. Stupid, stupid idiot. Okay, so my burn is starting way too late. That will cost us an efficiency, but we'll have to deal with it. Stupid. To continue the tutorial-ness nature of my commentary, the maneuver nodes always assume that you gain all of your speed instantaneously, that is planned, which is clearly not the case, which is why the best you can do is kind of average out the speed you gain from before and after the node. So if you have an estimated burn time of 5 minutes, you want to start burning at roughly 2.5 minutes, which is why even though I started burning 1.5 minutes before T0, I'm still late. It's not the biggest problem ever. We'll be fine. I feel kind of silly though, but you know what? This mistake costs way less than trying to, like, spinning out trying to get to orbit cost us. And thanks to Mr. Nuclear Engine, this actually represents a lot of fuel. In fact, I believe we should still have... Yeah, both of those are still full of oxidizer, so we still have 2 T-800s left. Essentially what we got. We can tell how much rocket fuel we have by the oxidizer because the jet fuel is kind of started differently. But oxidizer is what we have. We probably went over budget a little bit with the liquid fuel, but I don't think by much. So the ratio should still work out where we have a bunch of rocket fuel left. So it should be accurate representation of how much fuel we have left. Oh, gotta love these 5-minute burns. It's almost like we're going to a different planet or something. Of course, like everything in Kerbal Space Program, it seems to go slow at first, but then it'll pick up really quick. I'm sure many people have had the problem where they were time warping to get in orbit of a planet or to the moon and not realize, or temporarily forgetting that the closer you get to a body, the faster you go because of Kepler's law. Yes, that one. And accidentally slung themselves way out into interstellar space. Which could happen this time too, if we're not careful, because that is definitely an exit trajectory. We've already... Let's hope that late burn is the only real mistake we make this flight. Because we can make way worse mistakes than that. I don't even really need to be following the marker, I could just burn prograde. And just, you know, pay attention to the actual orbit. It's more efficient that way than burning off prograde. So what we need is speed. I think it's interesting that we're still reading a little bit of air intake, because that's what it was at when we turned them off. God, that's making me nervous not being on the marker like that. I feel like I'm doing it wrong. We just need to get there. It's more about timing than burn. Though, our trajectory has us coming off a bit late. We're de facto late. Very close. Down because things are going to happen faster. Okay, so now I'll just do this by eye. Get the variables we want, which is a small one. That'll do. It's a little kind of high. It's too high. We want to get down to 20. 20. 14. Yeah, it's close. Okay, we'll take that. That'll do. Whew. And the amount of burn was still, I don't know if that's past or before. Nah, whatever. We were not particularly off what the marker said we would be. Okay, so now we get to time warp to the moon and not fling ourselves off into space. I should actually probably do a screenshot of transfer. Alright, so screenshot of transfer. I wonder if they want to, because it does say take a screenshot of it in orbit. I'm sure that's also for the easy version specifically of it in orbit. So it's in space and it's on the transfer. I wonder if they want a picture of the craft. No, they can't really tell, and it's also going to be dark. I'll have to wait till we're at the moon. Right, let's get to the moon. Oh, the reason my orbitals are drawn like this is because I went into the config file, the CFG file, and I changed the conical draw mode from whatever the default was to 0, and it's what does this. And the benefit is that you can actually like focus on the moon and see how your intercept is going to be, even if you're doing a planetary transfer a very long distance away, so you can get a very accurate picture of how you're going to do stuff. Once you actually get to the body. We can increase our time warp a bit. And remember, things will slingshot. And it'll transfer, come on, sphere of influence change. Here we go. Yeah, it's not the most equatorial thing ever, but it does not need to be. All we need to do is land. This much. That'll get us around orbit. We're going to want to land the daylight side, so we're going to have to do our final burn like over here. So that's a good thing. It is another 1 minute 30-second burn. Alright. Yeah. Where's that maneuver node? We'll be away from the moon. And this time we will not be late. We need to burn at roughly 45 seconds. I do like to burn a bit before, just so I have time to ramp up and ramp down. And that means we are captured. We'll follow this marker. Fortunately, getting back to Kerbin requires far less delta V than getting to the moon. At least if you're just going to go straight for atmospheric entry, which you kind of have to do. The only problem is then you don't always get to choose where on Kerbin you land, and if you're landing over a big ocean, that could be a problem. So I may try to do a near miss until I can figure out how many rotations a kerbin is going to have. I'll be able to calculate my time until periapsis, and then figure out how many times Kerb will go around and see if I can land on a land side or an ocean side of Kerb. Hopefully that'll work out. It'd be really nice if I had enough fuel left over where I could circularize and then land wherever I wanted, just, you know, back at KSP. Or the Kerbal Launch Center. Alright. Is that a good number? That's... let's get lower. We're gonna have to kill all the speed eventually. Ooh, wait, how low are you? 13, that's fine. Alright, we're good. Now we have to get ourselves over to the daytime. Or the day side. I'm not sure if there's any spot I would like to land at more than others. It's fairly... since they updated the surface, the whole thing is really gnarly. Yeah, I don't really need to land someplace interesting this time. I want to land someplace safe. So I think I want to land around here. So I will make a maneuver. And of course, when planning maneuver nodes for landing on surfaces, it's always difficult because the surface is always kind of rotating beneath you. And of course, as you approach, you're going to be losing more and more speed. So I'm definitely going to want to start braking hard then. And then I'm going to have to brake again around there. And ultimately, you're going to need a deadfall. And I do like to set maneuvers for them, just so that I know how many meters per second I need to kill for a deadfall, how long it'll take me, so I can start burning before that number, and I don't plow into the ground. So I'm going to be doing that. So I'm going to want a fairly accurate burn here, and on this one I'm actually going to burn before the deadline. So even though it says I'm going to be landing on that point, the whole moon's going to be rotating, and I'm also going to be... we'll see. Maneuver node, where be ye? There you are. Oh, and this little guy around here, that's Laddie, based off of the actual Laddie probe that NASA had launched in early September. I saw the news about that, and I saw that its launch vehicle was a 5-stage rocket that was all solid engines, like solid rockets. So I decided to recreate that in Kerbal Space Program. So I made a copy of the probe as best as can be done in Kerbal Space Program. It looks like it to enough. And I made a launch vehicle for it that was 5 solid stages. And it was a good time. I may upload the video of that at some point. I actually have to make the video. I just kind of made the probe. I haven't really recorded anything of it. So that's something to look forward to in the future. I may in the my time is fine. I may in the future do more real-life replica projects. They are kind of fun. No, I do not want to be impatient. Impatience will kill you in landing. Yeah, let's just go. Okay, so this will get us an intersection with the ground. And it is more fuel efficient to do more burning later, because since you're being accelerated toward the body by gravity, you would have to pretty much burn constantly in order to cancel that out as you go. So it is technically most efficient to do a last-minute burn just before you plow into the surface. But it's good to know when that is. So let's see, I got this much speed left. I need to cancel it all out, which is about, yeah, that's pretty much what I'm going to be doing at the end. So I need to cancel out 447 meters per second, which will take 2 minutes to do, and I will be really close to the ground in 2 minutes and 4. I should start now. We are going to start slowing down now, because we need to get rid of all 435 in 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and it's going to take us 2 minutes and 15 seconds to do it. Now, you see, even though I made the note over here, we're already, our trajectory is changing dramatically. We're probably actually going to land roughly around here. Or actually, no, probably like around here, which is good, because that's a nice open land. But we will continue to follow our retrograde marker until we hit the not hit the ground, until we land delicately on the ground. Now will be the time for those landing legs. And we're on the day side, so I can turn on our landing light. The salt plates on power. So the moon, the surface of the moon varies in altitude anywhere up to 5,000 or 5 kilometers or 5,000 meters. So I think this area is one of the relatively high spots. So I would expect to land around 2,000 or 3,000. You can never really tell. So that's why you really have to be careful and make sure you kill all your velocity before you hit the ground. We'll be watching carefully. Though usually in this method I end up killing speed more than necessary, but that's fine. We're okay with that, that's fine. We got plenty of gas. And I like this landing area. This looks nice. This is really nice. This will do just dandy. Right, 80. We're starting to see those rocks on the ground. 60. Well, actually, I think I'm going to actually throttle down. I don't want to kill everything. It'll take 50 years to get there. But this number is still going down. That's what we want. Generally, when you're coming in for a landing, you want to keep your thrust direction in between the vertical point and your retrograde. And that will slowly drag your retrograde marker toward the center without necessarily flying past it. We're at 40. That's, I see my shadow. We'll thrust more now. That's what I get for looking at the plane instead of the ball. I nearly screw it up. Oh, 17. Oh, we still have a ways to go, though, so we're good. We want the number to be getting smaller, but as we drop, we technically get lighter burning the fuel, so our current thrust setting will eventually become too high of a thrust setting. Yeah, I think I want to drop faster. Second until we get closer, and then we can, because I don't even see the circle of light yet, so we have a couple hundred meters to go probably. I really need to concentrate on keeping that vertical Super, super vertical. I kind of wish there was a way to zoom in on the ball even more. Alright, number's 10. We want that number to go down. Like, you don't always want this number 0. Sometimes you just want it to be decreasing. Eventually it'll get to 0, and then you'll start thrusting up again, so it's another one of those careful, careful balances. Because we're only using about half thrust, so I can add more thrust at the last second to bring this down to like a 3. 3 landing would be good. There's our circle of light. Our shadow in the middle of it. 5 meters per second. Ish. Look at the ball, look at the ball. Look at the ball, 2. Yes! Perfect! Excellent landing! I am happy. Okay, so... Oh, and he gave me C curve. That's great. I couldn't have asked for better. Screenshot that mofo right there. Okay, so we are on the surface. We don't really need that light anymore. Turn that light off. We will plant a flag. All 3 of you guys are getting out of here. Come on. Yeah. Yeah. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. Good for you. Bill. Come on, Bill. Whee! Who needs ladders? And yes, I did test it. They can get back in without ladders. That would have been really awful if they couldn't have gotten back in. But that is one of the things. That is one thing that Bill did test for us on his Mark I flight. Look at him being all graceful. Yeah. Well, Jebediah, you again get the honors of planting the flag. Okay, and one more screenshot. Well, actually, I think if I can... Oh. Pfft. Whatever. I'm sure that's not really necessary. Yeah. Right. The twitchy ground and everything. Gotta get a couple more while I'm here. You don't do this kind of thing very often. I do kind of wish that the sun was a little bit on this side, but instead of absolute noon, but it's okay. You take what you can get, and right now I'm happy. And that'll do. Now it's time to get their butts back in the plane. You first, Jebediah. Come on, Bill. Pretty sure it's Bill. Yep, it's Bill. Ooh. What happened to all that elegance here before? Man. You had too much. Oh, y'all. See, that's what you get for cracking the champagne while you're still on the moon. Come on, get your butt in there. Ah. See, I clearly don't do this enough. I mean, I can dock stations, I can fly planes to the moon, but I can't get Bill in his stupid cockpit. Okay, yeah, you're happy. I'm sure you're really, really happy. Yeah. All that champagne. There we go. And, you know, it's a good thing you're not flying, buddy. I tell ya. Jeb's the only professional around here, which is shocking. Yeah. Alright, everyone is on board. We have fuel. We have power. I think we are ready to go. We are going to be heading east again, which is behind us, which is fine. Actually, I think I want this screenshot too. Pardon me. Don't mind me. Just taking some screenshots. Cause that's nice. You gotta love it when you get your ship in the kerbin like pointed like that. Boom. Yay. At least we know getting off the moon is simple. You just throttle the fuck up. This way. Toward kerbin. Again, we really don't need much altitude above. Again, like I know due to some painful testing, I know one of the highest spots is about 5 kilometers. If we get an orbit of 6 or 7 kilometers above the moon, that's enough, and then we can do our transfer. And by the looks of things, we'll definitely have enough to get back. Hopefully we'll have enough to circularize. We probably won't have enough to circularize fully, but we might have enough for a couple passes. We don't have to just, you know, hope we land on land. We can maybe do something about it. There is no end to the screenshots I won't take. Or, no, there is. There's no end to the screenshots I will take. There is definitely an end to the ones I won't take, being any of them. I will definitely won't not take none of them. We're almost in the correct position to burn straight for kerbin from the surface. but I don't want to put all the work we put into this at jeopardy by dealing with that. So, because we will eventually just be adding to this speed. None of this thrusting will go to waste even if we make a full orbit. So we will go ahead, make a circular orbit, and then plan a node for our return trip. Good enough. Yeah, fine, whatever. Alright, so now let's just see if we plan that maneuver now. Ooh. Yeah, that's more thrust than I even need. Okay, so let's get, well, that's too, well, let's see. I kind of want to do a near miss, just so that we can see what our landing situation is going to be like, and we can either pull off the, destroy the last bit of velocity, or glide around for another pass. And if I don't get this right now, I may miss the window. 83. Yeah, no, 83 is fine. Alright. Because we could potentially, like, kill the rest of the velocity right there and then bring us in after we count rotations. And yeah, that was, yeah. So it was 800 meters per second necessary delta V to get to the moon, 260 to get back. That's a nice deal. And we certainly have that much fuel left here. And the burn begins. Now I do kind of wish I had some kind of engineer plugin or mechanical jet plugin so I could see my exact delta V stats, so I could tell if I could do a proper circularization around Kerbin or not. I just don't know. Because when it gets down to this fuel level, it's kind of guesswork. Oh, crap. Alright, so I went a little too far. Now we'll dip. Well, you know what? It's fine. We'll dip. We'll dip into the atmosphere so slightly. I'm sure it wouldn't kill all that velocity, so it's not like it wouldn't even get re-entry effects. Those don't even happen until like 32 kilometers anyway. So we now know we are 7 hours 50 minutes from that point. We know that Kerbin goes around once every 6 hours. So that'll mean it'll go around fully, plus a third-ish. So 1/3 of a planet this way. We're heading about here, which is directly over land, but it's heading toward water, and that's not what we really want. Well, but that means it would be directly over, so if we slowed down so we had an intersect with the side of the planet, it'd be a hell of a fireball. It would certainly be over land. And we could attempt circularization, but I don't want to use all of our fuel. What to do? Also, a side note, the Mark 1, when it came in for a landing, it happened to land on that spot of land right there. It was coming in over water, and it had just enough glide in it to make it to the tiniest bit of land, and landed safely. So we have that to look forward to as well. Me potentially screwing up a perfectly landable craft is really something to look forward to. Inclination is kind of off too. Well, I mean, we could try to fix that, but that really only matters if we try to land at the launch center. And that we can really only do that if we can recircularize. I don't think we have enough delta V to redo that to pick our landing spot that closely, because it's a full 2/3 rotation off. Could go for a second pass, see what it's like after. That'd be another rotation. Well, it'd be actually back out and then back in again, so it'd be 2 and 2/3 rotations. So 1 and 1/3, 2 and 2/3 throughout an entire. That'd be right back to what we're looking at. It doesn't help us at all. Okay, what I think we want to do is we're going to burn retrograde, and we're going to have our vector pretty much plowing. Well, I don't really want to plow straight into this thing, because again, this landmass should be very close, but I'd be plowing straight down into it, and I do not think that is the return trajectory we really want. But we don't have a whole lot of options. And it's best to decide now, so we can. The sooner we decide to burn or not, the more efficient it'll be. The more fuel we have left over for potentially flying around. I suppose we could kill our velocity and then turn around and then land westward again. 200. I have about 200 liters of liquid fuel. The thing's so sluggish. Well, it's lighter now, it would be less sluggish. I'm sorry you have to listen to my decision-making process. It's kind of long and painful, but it's the only one I have. Okay, we're not going to land now. I've come to a decision. I'm going to increase our periaps so that it misses the atmosphere. No, I'm not. We're going to let it see. We're going to dip into the atmosphere a little bit. We'll slow down. Our period will change. Our orbit will not be as high next time. We'll come in a different time when we can recalculate our landing time. And this is making for a very long mission, I know, but you know what? I have to fly it too. I don't have. I'm sitting here without editing. So that's that. All right, let's time warp this crap out of here. So we'll also get to see if my math was correct, if the area that I thought was going to be below us is going to in fact be below us. Okay, so I was incorrect. We totally have land that we can land on. We're going to go for that. I thought my calculations were off because I'm a dum-dums. So we are definitely coming in fast, and we'll probably land around there-ish. So we will... Well, of course, pointing retrograde. This is why I wanted to do this much sooner, because now we have to burn a lot to drop this even a little. We're actually probably better off doing an orbital slide maneuver. than trying to reduce total speed. So we will do that. We'll burn in this direction, normal to our current velocity. Let's see what happens to this. This should be getting lower. It's getting lower. Good. I want that to get up. And that will certainly do. Alright, we'll hit tons of atmosphere. And I guess we'll be landing on the day side. It'll be close. It'll definitely be sunset by the time we land. Don't want to hit the atmosphere going too. That's kind of weird. Kerbin doesn't usually look like that. Or water. Maybe because it came in so fast. Probably particularly. There we go. That's what I wanted to see. Alright, so we're coming in for a landing. Our battery is good. We have 200 units of fuel left, so we could definitely land wherever we want. We can find a suitable landing spot. I will leave our solar panels open until we hit air. We could almost land at one of the Easter egg sites. Just maybe. No. No. Never mind. It's totally off. Alright, so we're in the atmosphere. We will close our solar panels, even though we don't need them anymore. And we will hit the crap out of this atmosphere. Or at least there's lots of places to land. There we go. Gotta love the fireball. Just gotta love it. Hey look, it's Minmus. Here. Now I did mention before that the Mark I could glide very effectively. We have fuel now, so we don't necessarily have to glide, but I'll probably see what we can find without having to use fuel. Because that's not great. That's okay. Probably could turn, land over here, maybe land by the lake, after such a long, hard mission. Yeah. It is kinda hilly. Could we make it over there? I don't think I really want to travel much farther away from the sun than we are now. I think some of our best theoretical runways kind of run in this direction. It's tough. Certainly don't want to do a lot of powered flying. This mission's been long enough already. Also keep in mind, this is you haven't seen this plane do anything but fly straight this entire mission. So this is the first turn of the mission. Okay, you're gonna do it. You're gonna go this way, and you're gonna be okay, and you're gonna like it, and not flip out. Yes. Yes, you are. Because we have the horizontal and vertical stabilizers. More. Don't want to hit that hill. This looks okay. I can probably land along here. It is kind of uphill, which is not great, but it is fairly feature-free, so it should not be suicidal. I'll prepare the air-breathing engines just in case. No, the brakes yet. And I don't need the rear light. I half expect the nuclear engine to snap off when the rear wheels hit the ground. Wouldn't seem right if it didn't, really. A perfectly intact plane on landing would be yet another surprise. Okay, I'm gonna want a little bit of juice to get over that hill. Not a lot, though. Well, at least with us going uphill, braking under the landing gear shouldn't be too difficult. But it does make our approach that much faster. Oh, crap. Don't have to go over that hill, too. I do not want to just collide with the back of that guy. Here we go. Hilly, hilly, hill. Hill, hill, hill. Yeah, okay. Okay. Alright. Brakes. Brakes, brakes, brakes. And we're landed. Okay. Successful landing, successful mission all around. Screenshot that. Get these guys back out here. Of course, then they can never get back in because there's no ladders, but who cares? Mission complete. Nah, get out. Get out! Nah, you know, maybe in the future, maybe if I decide to fly this plane again for some reason, I'll put some ladders in it. But yeah, mission, Reddit challenge, completed. Though I have to turn the lights off because it's annoying. Alright, smile for the cameras once again. Congratulations, you've made it to the moon and back on a single stage. So, if anyone has actually bothered to watch this long, thank you very much for paying attention, and go out there and build something.